Good morning, everyone. Well, I managed it again. I recorded the entire first half of this video without my microphone. But I don't want to waste it. It's good video, so I'm going to document the first half of this video for you. But basically, I started out with 4 straight wires at 13 inches long. They're 20 gauge round soft wires. I had them straight. I created the bale weave first. This is akin to my pattern called Dragon Veins, if you want to go visit that one. And after I did the bale, I flipped it over on itself, and then I parted the wires in the opposite direction and weaved a simple 1/1 weave until I got about halfway down my seashell. So I weaved until I could get my bare wires to a place where I can insert into these openings here. So you can weave yours to whatever length you need and then shape your wires. This will be a reversible pendant by the time it's done, so we'll try to focus on both sides, making them both very pretty. And as I warned in the beginning of the video, which I had no volume for, these can be a little fragile, so you just be careful along this long side here as you are working and passing wire through. So I've weaved both sides of my frame, and until now, really, it's, you know, either side will work. Once I start making the next bends, then we'll lock it into a certain shape that fits our seashell. But right here, I'll just remove the weaving wires that I was working with by doing a little tension and some very big wide circles until the wire breaks off right down there cleanly, or you can cut it, whichever you prefer. All right, and so now I'll start to dedicate some bends to my seashell slice here, and I'll hold it this way and just kind of with my fingers work the shape of the frame around the seashell. Just work carefully, and I can see here I'll start some new wire and I'll split these two frame wires 2 by 2, and I'll do the same on this side. Alright, so I'm working with 2 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire, and this will be the top side of my frame, or one of the sides. I shouldn't say top because it's going to be reversible. I'll insert my weaving wire here, and you can do any type of weave. I'm going to weave these two together for about 1/2 inch, maybe just 1/4 inch actually. So I'll do a 360 around the bottom frame wire. I'll come up and I'll do a 360 around the top frame wire, which leaves me in the back. So I'll come down and I'll do a complete 360 around the bottom one. I like this particular weave. It's clean. It's in the style of the weave before it. But you can do whatever weave you'd like for your seashell. And I'll just push those back after I've gone a little ways. I'll do a few more. And you don't have to weave these. You could just wrap them. Put a single coil, you know, over both wires. And that's about my 1/4 inch there. Whoop. I like to weave these first because once you start turning them into the shell, then the shell is attached to the wire and you have to work with the shell in place. But you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a little bit of a weave. I'm going to take these 2 wires, I'm going to curve into that space. But I might choose to, just for texture, I'm going to single coil on one of them as I go. Probably the top one here. So I'll just make these single coils on this front wire for about 1 inch until I think I can get myself through that shell into the other side. That's pretty good. So I'll just leave that there for a second. I'll go to the other side and weave out some wires. I'm going to also weave these two so that they kind of just shape the rest of the frame down to the tip here, and I'll just weave those two together in any style you would like, but I'm going to do this weave here just to keep it consistent. So I'll leave this weaving wire hanging out here in case I need it for later, and I'll get a fresh piece of 2 feet 28 gauge. So I just put a little pre-bend on those wires where they meet the tip of the seashell. You can certainly mark those. And I'm just going to insert my wire. I'll do my 360 around the bottom wire to anchor myself. Do a 360 around the top wire. I'm going to have to part those a little bit. It leaves me in the back, so then I'll just continue this weave pattern until I get to my distance right here, and you can do whatever weave pattern you'd like. Alright, so I'll just leave that there for a second. Pick this up and see if I've gone my distance, and that's about good there. I'll just leave that hanging out. I'm not going to put these two through the shell until I weave this side out. So I'll repeat what I just did on these bottom 2 wires to shape this side, and repeat what I did on these first 2 wires. I might do something different, we'll see. But you can go ahead and get another 2 feet and weave out the other side, at least the back wires if you want, and just shape them until they meet these other wires back here that you just weaved. Okay? And again, I like to leave all my weaving wire on in case I need it. You can remove these lengths if you want. I'm going to take the short ones out and leave the long ones. Just to keep it a little bit clean. And I'll just give a gentle tap to all of these weaves right here. Make sure to pull them all back nice and neat on themselves. Okay, so then I'll get 2 feet and I'll repeat on this side. Alright, so just finished that. I'll get a fresh 2 feet of weaving wire and I'll just weave out the other side. That's going to meet it on the back or opposite side of my frame. So I'm just going to do the same weave. You can do whichever weave you'd like. I'll insert my weaving wire to give myself an anchor, and then I'll just do a repeat to here. Alright, once you have those weaved, it's a little squirrely. You have to keep shaping your wire back to your frame. I've got about 1/4 of an inch to go, so I'm going to weave a little bit more until I meet this other wire. Okay, so I finished weaving those 2 lower sets so that they meet. I've got a coil on this top one. I'll part them out a little bit and I'll get 1.5 feet of 28 gauge. Alright, so I'll just go ahead and coil out this top wire just because I want to be similar to the other side. You could certainly weave these 2 wires together in any fashion you want. And I'm just going to coil for about 1 inch here. And that's pretty good. Go ahead and remove the leading fragment here. And now I'll start to secure the shell into the frame. So I'll pick this up. I'll make sure to shape my sides nicely along my shell, and I'll make sure that the shell is sitting in the direction that I want it to sit. And I'm going to start by just holding on to everything. You could certainly tape all of that if you want to. I'm just going to hold it. And I'll start with these 2 upper wires. I still have my weaving wire in there, so I'll just have to feed that along with it. Just very carefully bend through this shell. Don't pull against the shell, just feed the wire in with your fingers so that it grabs it right there. And don't give too much pressure, but just enough to squeeze it down and lower it in there. Okay, so I've got this second wire, and I'll just leave the extension of it here. I'm going to go ahead and pass through the opening just to the side of it. I'll push a little, I'll straighten out my leading wire and pull a little, push a little, straightening out the leading wire and pulling a little, just getting it through there and back to the back, or to the opposite side, just like that. Okay, you can do the same with these 2. I'm going to pass the first one through here. They don't have to be in the exact same spot. The shell is super lightweight, so the wire's going to hold on to it really nicely for you. You just got to make sure that you don't break it. So I'm going to pass my weaving wire to the back with that one, with that coil. So now to work on this side, take a long bend out here and I'll get through my shell, push, straighten out the leading wire, pull a little, and just get that to lay down nice and close, making sure that you keep your shape here and that the bail stays upright. This upper part of the shell is still quite loose because we haven't passed wires up there to secure it yet, so just keep it in place for now. And I'll take this second wire, the bare wire. First I'll get my weaving wire passed back through there with that coil. And now I'll take the bare wire next to it, and I'm just going to give a long bend. I'll be real careful to come through this next opening and shape my wire nicely down the shell so I get a nice beautiful scallop. And now I have these 4 wires in the back. A lot of weaving wires still going on here. You'll just get them snug and shape them to your liking. We'll leave them back there for now. I'll work with these 2 down here to cinch all this up a little bit. And I'll just shape these to the side of the shell here until they meet. And I've got a weaving wire on both sides, so I'll use one of them. And I'll just weave these 2 upper wires together with a few wraps. So I'll just take the weaving wire that exists there already, do a single wrap there. I'll come around, do a single 360 on that opposite one, which leaves me in the back. These 2 will want to squirrel on top of each other a little bit. Just keep them under control. Do a 360 around the front, bottom one, and a 360 around the front top one, and I'll do one more repeat just to get those 2 tied together. Just like that. And then I have the opposite weaving wire to tie the 2 back ones together. So I'll flip the frame over, get these wires into a nice position, and I'll use the existing weaving wire. Just going to go up a few so I get even with it. And I'll take a few wraps to get these 2 wires together on the opposite side of the frame. And I'm just delicately holding my shell in place. Remember that the top of it can still squiggle out. Ooh. Okay, so both of those are all weaved together on the front and the back. And then now I'm going to flip to the opposite side. One side of your shell has this opening. The other top side of the shell, it's not. So I'm going to pass wire these 2 up through here, and I have just a breadth of space at the top there to wrap around the neck of this pendant with these 2 wires. Okay, so there's about 1 millimeter or so, maybe 2. So I'll take the 2, and it doesn't matter which side, I tend to go this side. Just control all my excess weaving wires down here. And I'll work with these 2 wires from this side. I'll make sure they look elegant on the opposite side. And I'll take them and turn them inward. Just put your finger right there. Squeeze it and give it a little upward turn. And then this one too. Squeeze that loop you made, not too tight to break it. And just shape elegantly up along this side here. The wires are soft, so you can just shape them with your fingers. Get them elegantly together. They're going to curve up this way. Just use the shell there if you want to. And you can weave or wrap or do whatever you want to get those two together. But when you come up here, we're going to wrap around these shoulders to keep this shell in place now. Okay, so right here, I think I'll do a little weave. Just get the wires nicely together so that you can work with them. And I'll just attach them with the existing weave wire here by doing a few little stitches. It's the same weave I've been using everywhere. I'm just going to do 2 or 3 of those to get started. Oop. You could leave the little channel open and do bead balls if you want to up there. I'm just going to weave until I get to about this curve right here, and then I'll split them up. So I'll stay in this weave pattern just because it's my preference for no other reason. You can do whatever you want. You could even leave them separate and just coil one and leave the other one bare, like how they passed through. You could do a figure 8 up through here, or you could just do solid coils around these two. Okay, so I'll see you right about here. Alright, so I kind of ran out of wire right there. I stitched about a 1/4 inch together, and so I started fresh wire. It's another foot. I decided I'm just going to coil up the one outside frame wire just for a different look and to keep it a little more delicate up here on the top with separate wires versus weaving 2 of them together. So I'm just making single coils and working carefully till I reach here. Remember that the shell, don't give it too much pressure on that edge. Now I'm almost out of wire, and that's pretty good. I'm happy with that there. So what I'll do now is I'm going to go over the front and wrap these 2 wires around the shoulders here. I could do a little attachment here with my wire since I've got about 1 inch or so left of my weaving wire. You might give yourself a spot more. And I'll just get them wrapped together a little bit a couple of times here. Ooh, definitely give yourself 1 inch or 2 more than I did. I just need a couple of stitches to hold it. Make them pretty and neat. Okay, and then I'm just going to break them off right there. So I have this nice little line going up here. So I'll hold my shell so that it's in my frame, and I'll carefully work these 2 wires up and through this shoulder area. So I'll show you from the opposite side here. Let's hold everything together. Carefully pass 1 wire at a time through the shoulder, straighten it out, the leading wire, and help work that wire through. You don't want to really pull it because, you know, the shell breaks up here if you're too difficult with it. So just work patiently with your plier, help it through, and you can do the opposite side. Just hold the shell with the frame and use your plier. Straighten out the leading wire and just gently keep feeding it through until you're close. Then you can get a little pinch on it. And now these two wires are living on this side, and you can leave them up there in case you want to do some cute stuff at the bail with them. Just make sure those two are living where you want them to. And now the shell's pretty much in there, top and bottom. So the rest of it is just decorative. Take your time and weave the rest of these wires up. Get rid of these leading fragments here. Now I'll put my focus on the opposite side here. We just put these two up this way. My wires are coming through this frame in this direction, so I could flip these to this opposite side and do something cute with them, or I could turn them up the pendant as well, whatever you want to do. I think in my case, I might just flip them over here. Take a soft bend up the shell there with two nice bare wires. And I'm gonna circle the stem here and trim them out. Ooh, be real careful when you do this. So hold it right here. Get a nice little back bend on them. Get a long bend at the top. Pass through your shell. Try not to scrape against the shell. Return the wires to elegance down there. Just shape them. And I'm just going to hold them right there as I come around this stem. Be real careful. This is where things can break. So I'll just turn to the back here. If I don't feel like I can pass safely, you know, you can do some little curl or something, or bring them up and attach them over here. Just take them way out. Just going to work them through gently. So I have this nice wire coming through here. Ooh. I think in my case with this one, just shape them carefully. Just going to turn them into this space right here. Maybe I'll just make a little something. Maybe I'll end up going back through and weaving those anyway, because make them more stable. But now that they're all through there, sometimes it's hard to pass through the shell when they're all weaved up. So just keep that in mind. So I'll take my cutters and I'll trim this a little bit, this inside one. And this one I'll put a little curl on it. I'll just cut them to make them clean. And I'll just take my, you could use round nose also. I'm just using my bent nose plier to make a little curve. And curl on this one. Let it live right there. I'll make this one a little bit shorter. And I might hammer these. You don't have to. I might dare myself to do it before I weave them together. And then I'll make a little turnout on this guy. two little cute moves right there. So before I do anything else, I want to hammer these. You don't have to. So while they're here, I'm going to pull them forward so that I can reach them. The shell is super delicate, so I'm just going to hammer the tips of those and flare them out. Be careful with your shell. Make sure that you can lay down on this bench block safely. And all I did was just hammer them slightly. While they're out here, I'm going to sand and clean the front facing side of it. So while they're out here, make sure everything stays as you have it. I'm going to go ahead and weave them a little bit and coil them a little bit, and then I'll return them to their place. So I think I'll start maybe with, these two. So these two are still out here. Just work carefully. And these are the two that I might want to put together. You don't have to do that. You could leave them bare. Maybe you didn't even put yours through there. I have an existing wire here, so I'm going to use it. I'm going to continue this coil until the two wires meet, and then I'll do a little coiling to get them together and continue around the back. But now that I've got the seashell in the frame, we'll have to just feed our weaving wires through, and this is part of weaving. So I'll just continue this coil. Maybe you do a figure 8 between these two. Maybe you land a couple of bead balls in there. Whatever you want to do. I turned it over so I coiled from there to here. I'll get up to about here. And then I'll get them together. You're just working carefully and patiently, because you can't pull too much and give too much pressure. So now I'll go ahead and get these two together. And I think just for texture, I'm just going to do a simple wraparound coil on them instead of a weave. Putting a little more curl and swirl on it, a little more slant. And I'll keep coiling, I think, till I reach about here, and then I'll try to somehow stitch them all together when I lower these two back down. But for now, these are still up in the air. I guess I could I could go all the way up there with them, couldn't I? Do something like that too. But I like them bent down. Don't do that to yours. I was just showing you. Okay, so mine are going to go back down to there. Okay, once I've finished this coil. Woo! Straighten these out a little bit. Oh, I've bent them up and down. Alright, so I've coiled up until about here, and now I'm going to take these two that I hammered, these two decorative pieces. I'll make some slight nudges to get them back into elegance, and then I'll curve them down here where I want them. And I'll attach with that wire there. Just work yours until you love it. I think I'm happy with that, so I might just work this area right here a little bit. Resand it. So that's nice. So I'll coil up to here and then I'll jump and coil a few stitches along those two to keep them settled. So there's where I jumped over and I attached the one. I'll wrap some singles up here until I feel like I can attach this second one. And again, yours might look entirely different, so don't feel like you have to do this. Just make yours to where you love it with all your little decorative elements. Alright, so I started a fresh piece of wire and I just did that little bit of coiling right there, and I attached those with a couple of wraps right there. I'll leave those on there just in case I need them, as always. So now I can look around and make sure that everything is laying nicely. I still got design wires at the top there, and I've got 4 wires down here at the bottom, 2 to either side. So I think with one of these sides, I'll get my flat nose, or my chain link, my chain nose pliers. And since I have this nice point, I'm going to turn these up and turn them to either direction. So I'll just use my plier right here. I'll make a straight bend back on itself. Hold it right there and just make a nice curve to the right. And this one I'll do the same, and I'll curve it to the left. It doesn't have to be the same on both sides. One can be a little longer than the other, or they can be the same, whichever you prefer. Hold it right there, and I'll give it a slight outward turn. So I've got those 2 wires low and close to the frame there. And I think I'll put my thumb right there and shape this one to kind of match the inside stem here. Since I have wires going around that way, I'll go that way. I could do the same to this side. don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. They can just go up like that. Make them meet each other. I could even use maybe this guy right here and attach them right there and then do some curls with the rest of it, or curls right there. So I might do that. I might just work these to where I can utilize the wire that's already living here. Get those two captured. And then maybe I'll just do a little weaving for a little ways on these two. Put a bead ball in there later on. Then I have these two that I can curl and swirl as I choose. Might weave a little bit more. Whoops. I think I'm happy with that. Just get rid of these weaving wires. I think I'll take this inside one and do a downward spiral and the one up top, an upward spiral. I'll use my round nose pliers. I'm going to trim this. Leave about 3/4 of an inch right there. Just curl that to your liking. And take this other one, bring it up this way. Maybe land a little one right there. Maybe I'll make it shorter. And again, it's hard to guide you through because all shells are different, but you can have some ideas with this anyway. And then you can set yours up how you like it. And that's quite pretty. They're not too long. I might have to settle them. I might tighten these two little wires up there a little bit more. And you'll just squeeze and tighten here and there gently so that you achieve the look that you want. I might tie a bead ball there. I could coil those and coil that way if I want to. So that's super pretty. Make sure that everything lays down nice. And then I have these other two. I can come up this way with them and make a two-sided pendant. Or certainly I could bring them all to one side and just favor the one side of my pendant. So just for the fun of it, I'll come to this side. Make sure that everything's living the way you want it to. And I'll flip these two up. Sometimes it's okay to just pause, take a look at what you might do. My lines are, I could go this way with it, or I could go one to either side like I did the other one, or I could go both of them to this side. We'll see what happens. Just take these just like I did the other one, and I can flip it straight up. I'll do this other one, bring it right up next to it. Just take them out this way. Just kind of free forming it. I'm going to hold them together right there and follow one of these curves back into the shell. And then maybe just do like that, and I'll leave a little curl there and a curl upward just like I did on the other side. And I'll stitch them all in place using those 4 wires up there. And I could, you know, coil or weave these 2 also if I wanted to. So I think that's how the back's going to go, and that'll be really pretty. So I don't have much of this left. I'll get some fresh wire, so I'll break these 2 off. If you want to tie a bead ball, you could use one of these down here to tie a bead ball on. Just going to give some tension and spin them both until they break. These 2, just going to make sure they're all living nicely together down here. Put a little elegance to them by turning them out a little bit if you want to. I'll just turn these both the same direction. And that's pretty, I like that. It lays nice down there. Okay. To get this to lay down more, I might just give a little outward pressure there. Push this back a little bit more. If it needs to be stitched, you have some handy places. It's a little tight. You got to weave your wire in and out of there, but you could stitch those back a little bit more if you want to. I'll go ahead and start to attach this. So I'll leave those bare for the sake of time, but you get the idea that you could weave them or you could coil them. So just snuggle my wire in between all 4 of those right there. There's a nice spot to make a few wraps. Ooh. I'm trying to stay underneath my camera here for you too, but sometimes you just put a little curve on the wire and work it through. There's plenty of space, you just have to be patient. So I'll wrap these several times to get them together. Putting a little curve at the end of the wire there helps to get through. Once I have 3 or 4, might stitch 2 or 3 back on that one. I'll start to envision these wires here, so I'll leave that weaving wire on in case I want to stitch a few more, but I'll snip it right there, get my round nose plier on it, turn a cute curl into this space right there. Put a nice little curl right there. Might make that a little smaller. Just work to your liking. Try to make a few more wraps here. Just work carefully. Now would not be the time to break your shell. We're almost done. I feel like a couple of wraps just along these two. Ooh, it can be tight. Just work with your plier and work with your patience. Remember that the shell is delicate. Okay, and I think that's going to be good for me. I might add a couple of bead balls here and there. So I'll take these off. And then my last two wires are up here. I could do more curlies with them. I think for me to stiffen this neck up a bit, I'm just going to go one more time around the neck and through, just to give it some more substance there without really too much design. And remember, you can always add wire, right? So I could always, if I wanted more wire, just add another wire. Careful working this through if you're doing this. Don't pull too much. I think I'm going to cut mine and end it right along the side there rather than in the front. I have space in the neck of the bail, so I will just turn that right in there and tap all that down. And I'll do this other side. Make sure that I have room to get through there. And that's pretty good there. And then I'll also end this one tucked into the bail on the side here. Or I could put a spiral. I got enough. Let's go for the spiral. I bet you thought I was going to do it up the bail, huh? I could. But I could also just fill in this little gap in my shell right there. That's cute. Might stretch this one up. Take a couple of stitches and get those two together. I might stretch this one up. Make it a little smaller or hook it a little closer. Place it along the inside of my shell there. So you can always work a little more elegance into these spirals. And then if you munch up the tips, you can always just take a very fine plier and snip them out after you're done making your curl. That is not a very fine cutter, but it worked. And now I'll take 2 or 3 stitches or put a bead ball or something and get those two together. So I think you get the idea. Go around everything, gently position your wires if need be. I might do something more up here in the neck. I made a really long neck. And add some bead balls if you want to. And enjoy it, you guys. I hope that was fun for you. These are delicate, but once you wrap one or two, I think you get the feel for it. And if you make one, please tag me on my social media. I'd love to see your beautiful creation. Please give me a thumbs up and a comment and let me know how you feel about this project. And please remember to subscribe to my channel and hit the notifications so that you can know when I upload new and fun tutorials. I'll show you what this one looks like all finished up in a couple of seconds. I decided to tie those two together, and then I'm going to drop a 1mm bead ball right there. So use this wire to make a few coils on the other side to attach it. I decided I want to add another wire, so I've got 6 inches, maybe 7 of 20 gauge soft round wire, and I've just kind of skirted it along here. I'm going to attach it with some wire. I did this because I feel like my bail is a little bit tall, so if you're watching this ahead of time, maybe you make a decision about that, but I want to add some wire up here. So in order to do that and make it blend in, I just skirted the wire underneath here, and then I'm just going to follow it along and stitch it onto this outside wire here. I'll curve it just so you can kind of see what I'm going to do. And then I'll have this little bit down here that I can flip over or do something more with. But that'll allow me to add something up here. If I don't want anything more down here, I might just snip it and curl it right there. All right, just like that. A little tiny curl right there. Remember, just work to your liking. You don't have to do this. I think I'm going to flip this one around to the back or to the other side and, give this one a little bit more over here. So right about here, I'm going to break off and start coiling just this single guy. For a few coils. I think I'm going to flip it. So it kind of trails off right there. I could coil it a few more just to give it some definition. And then I've brought it to this side where I can, keep coiling if I want to, bring it up here and maybe do another spiral or something. Alright, so I tied it on right there, gave it a little curl right there. And that's all from there. And that all, continues up here. That was all so that I could get this wire up here and give the front of my bail a little something more. So make a few wraps and get rid of this guy. I think I'm just going to do a cute little curl right here. And I love that. Alright, so it kind of looks like it's swooshing through the sea. And it's got some nice curves on it. And I'll just dot some more bead balls around here. And that's it. That's your beautiful pendant. Alright, you guys, I hope you love it. I'm going to patina this and I'll be back with the whole thing finished. Well, here she is. I think it turned out gorgeous. And I think I favor the more simple side, this side, versus the more elaborate side, but both sides turned out really pretty. I'm probably going to retie some of these bead balls up here a little bit neater, make this a little cleaner up here. But I think it turned out beautiful. And I hope you enjoyed that. You guys have been asking me for how I wrap my sliced seashells for, I don't know, a decade now. So I hope it was worth the wait. Thanks again, you guys. Please give me a thumbs up and or a comment. Let me know how you feel about this. Please remember to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more beautiful projects like this one. And I look forward to seeing you for the next one. Thanks. Take care for now.